This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
Love every time we get together with her. She has so much knowledge in so many different areas. Maybe the starting point here is Chinese medicine. We've talked about acupuncture before. Today, we're going to talk about herbal medicine and how it supports us and how it's supported us for thousands of years. This was medicine back in the day and still is. The only challenge is many of us have been programmed to go to the traditional doctor, get a pill, and into our life. But this is where it began. So great to have her back here. Alethea Jones is on the program. How are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much, Steve. I hope you're doing well too.
Yeah, definitely. You know why I'm doing wonderful?
Why is that?
Thanks to herbals. And I really
They're
mean
powerful.
that.
Yeah, they're powerful.
It was a game changer for me about a year and a half ago. And, you know, we can get into that, but I'm only going to say is I had digestion issues. It was related to an ulcer back in the day, presented itself again, was almost thinking about driving myself to the hospital, which I did back in 2016 when it was an ulcer. And I just got to the point, I didn't know what it was. Didn't do herbals then. This time I did. 2.5 days later, done, finished, felt great. Just amazing. I am such a fan. And now, you know, I take them, I don't know if you'd call it as a supplement, but we'll get to that. Where should we begin today? What are you feeling?
Well, we can start with the supplement kind of conversation if you'd like. There's definitely quite a bit around that alone. And I will say that when you're talking herbal medicine and herbal supplementation, it's a large box to unpack. It is thousands of years in the making. There are Western ways of practicing. There are Eastern ways of practicing, and they're a little bit different. I'm more trained in the Eastern, but I do dabble and have understanding in the Western. So I welcome wherever we begin, really. But I think supplements are a great start to the conversation if you like.
And if you were to just briefly, broadly look at the difference between Eastern, Western, how would you verbalize it?
Well, part of what's happened over thousands of years is that traditional Chinese medicine, or I think of it also as Eastern medicine, because you also have Ayurvedic medicine in that lens as well.
Mm-hmm.
These are two practices of herbal medicine that focus on herbal medicine and nutrition as ways to guide one's health. And the interesting thing about it is that these forms of medicine, these modalities, have a written recording that are almost 4,000 years old. I don't know the length and duration of Ayurvedic medicine, but traditional Chinese medicine, the first written recording of traditional Chinese medicine was through a book called The Yellow Emperor's Classic. And that was published in 2600 BC. So that's about 4,000 years ago, really about like 33,000, but
who's counting?
But who's counting? Exactly. It's
What's
a
a
long
thousand
time.
years? What's a thousand years here and there, right?
Once you get to the thousands, they turn into little numbers, you know?
Yeah.
So that's part of it. And then when you talk about Western herbology, you're talking about a lot of the herbology that comes out of European, Scandinavian, Western practices. I think that's predominantly where that comes in. Now, there's other places that practice medicine. People in Africa practice medicine. People in Australia practice medicine. And these are going to have a little bit of a different flavor too, because there's different plants all around the world. The biggest thing, though, between Eastern medicine and Western medicine can include indigenous culture medicine too. Eastern medicine has held on to the recordings and the lineage from which it comes. And so it's very strong in the department of formulation, of creating a recipe for success, where you have parts and pieces to a recipe, just like you do when you're cooking at home, that are going to help the body in certain ways. And the herbs are going to interact specifically. When you talk about Western medicine, a lot of that information was lost. through various cycles. So if you're talking Western medicine by way of indigenous culture medicine in North America, a lot of that has been eradicated over the history of our US culture. If you talk about Eastern European or Scandinavian, same kind of thing. There's been enough warfare in our lives as human beings that a lot of the wisdom and information that we have, whether it was recorded or translated and shared by story, a lot of that has been forgotten over time just by Roman culture taking over to
Hmm.
become what we now have today as, republic states and democracies.
What was your moment where herbals made a difference in your life, where wow, you were like, I was blown away with my digestion challenges in just a couple of days of cat's claw, catnip, and marshmallow root. Even when I heard, and I have two cats, when I heard, actually it was catnip, I was like, what the heck am I ingesting? But, I trusted my, master herbalist and got it done, and that was all good. But was there a moment for you where it stood out where you said, yeah, this is pretty powerful stuff?
It has been, I think my whole life has been with plants to some degree. I
Wow.
come from a family of agriculturalists in the background. I'm from New England, and so
I didn't
the
know.
agriculturalists that I come from, they don't practice anymore, but the lineage of understanding plants and the dynamic of plants in the landscape is something that I carry probably from both sides of my family, both my mother's and father's. But the moment that I really started to have my own reverence and it changed my life was probably around the age of 15 or 16. And there was this little health food store down the road from my house, and I used to walk there after school. It was just one of my spots that I loved. And I used to go there and I was having menstrual cramps and I started my menstrual cycle around 11, but I had a lot of stress by the time that I was 15. I definitely had more stress. I was just harder on my body as a teenager. So I went to the health food store one time and I just asked a woman randomly. They had this one root, and I've never seen it in a regular store since, and it's called dongguai. And dongguai is the Chinese angelica root. And it it transformed my world. I got some dongguai, and this was a pretty fresh root, a little dried, but kind of fresh. And I would just sit there and I would chew on it. And it had this like strong, acrid, really potent flavor to it. And I used to just chew on it and chew on it and chew on it because I didn't know how to make what's called a decoction, which is making a tea essentially.
Is that like a concoction?
It's like a concoction, but what you're doing is you're decocting the herbal phytochemicals and phytonutrients that are in the plant. So for some, like a root, for example, you have to actually cook it for about 30 to 40 minutes to really get out the medicinal qualities. If it's something like mint, you only have to cook it for about 5 minutes. And even then, really, you just need hot water, sprinkle it in, and it starts to open up immediately, right? That's the difference between a leaf, a flower needs a shorter cooking time, or a root that needs longer cooking time. But this dongguai, I used to literally take it and stick it in my cheek and just chew on it when I was menstruating as a young woman. And it did so many things for me. Probably more than I knew at that moment that I have more awareness to now.
Wow.
But it was amazing. It transformed my life. And it really
Wow.
gave me a huge reverence toward plants and the science of botany. And I definitely have been working with that since.
So we're going to dig in a moment um, to call them supplements, but I want to share something with you and your feedback on it because it's in real time. 2 days ago, I went to a place and had kava,
Yeah.
and I've heard about it. Um, I wanted to also dig into the culture. It's kind of a vibe when you go to a kava bar, right? So, um, it I didn't experience I don't know, best description, euphoric properties or that feeling. And again, I don't think it was, the best kava at this place. Very nice place. I've heard others say, make sure it's, certain quality, legit, blah, blah, blah. But it was interesting, like even just mixing it with some oat milk that you could feel um, almost like a numbing effect as it was going down. It was so like interesting, And I'm definitely gonna look into it. I only spent like maybe I don't know 45 minutes there. It was in the evening. It was with somebody. I'd pass. I'm like, let's do it, and just turned right in and figured I'd jump into it. But Kava, your thoughts?
Kava's amazing. And that touches in on some of that, I believe, Australian medicine that comes in. I believe kava originates in Australia. I could be wrong about this, but it's definitely something that's used in a more ceremonial context for creating bridges of communication. Plants have a way to help us, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, and even spiritual. And kava, you mentioned that numbness and maybe even your cheeks went numb or your tongue went a little
Yeah, yeah,
numb.
yeah.
Yeah, and it kind of has a specific like again that acrid kind of flavor that I'm describing with dongui. There's like a little like nip to it. It's not a bite, but it's like a
No,
little like no, not so much.
no, no, no. I'm right there with you. I totally agree. And it was
Okay.
an acquired taste. Like, the first
Yes.
sip was like, ooh, how's this gonna go? And I was with somebody else and they weren't having it. They were just, yeah, I'm like, I'll take yours. And, it's just after a while, it was like, yeah, I'm good with it. Let's see where I go with it. Again, I don't think it was kava in its best and purest form because I didn't feel maybe I needed to have more. I mean, I've talked to actually the owner of a chain of some kava bars in California, and he's told me, yeah, people hang out and they do like maybe call it, 4, 8 shots of it, and then it kind of loosens things up, and it's kind of a vibe, and people talk and connect and everything. I had two, so maybe it wasn't
Yep.
enough. I don't know.
Well, and that's the whole thing with kava. Kava's traditionally shared because it's a cultural exchange when you're in a round table discussion, for example, so that everybody can come in, have their little bit of kava. There's actually a ceremonial proceeding to it. My husband and I were just in Hawaii, went to a kava bar, and they
Oh
did
well,
this really sweet little kava ceremony. And very simple, just essentially, all of us connecting in and sipping kava together. And
yeah.
everything goes numb, and the communication starts just becoming easy and flowy. And the euphoria that you feel, in my experience with kava, is not it's nothing disorienting. It's nothing out of body. It's actually quite grounding and
Hmm.
consolidating and really makes us a little more present. And again, plants have different effects on us. And that, in my experience and knowing, is the effect of kava. Just like the dongui that I would eat, I would feel centered, calm, grounded. And if you look at the energetic properties of the dongui, that's pretty much what it does. It helps to support the granular structures of our body. So I think that's probably why you probably had the euphoria just a little bit. And
Maybe.
next time try the 8 shots. Why not?
Right. I didn't have time. That's what it was. It was getting late. But yeah, and I try to get out of my head for a moment. Like, am I feeling a little, chill, whatever it was? But I really think I didn't have enough. But very interesting experience. And again, proof of what plants can do and make you feel and support you. So where should we begin on this herbal journey to supplements?
So herbs themselves can be put into a supplement form. I love the raw herb myself. The reason being, and supplements are great. If you take a plant and you encapsulate it, or if you take a plant and you grind it down and you make a press pill out of it with something to hold it together, they work wonderfully. I use them in my office all the time. They're easy. People will we're pill popping community of culture, right? We take a pill for the things. That's what we've been trained and programmed to do in our medicine. So when you're talking about herbs and supplements, it's a great delivery mechanism. There's other delivery mechanisms too. There's liquids, there's tinctures,
Mm.
I started making some raw herb bags to put into what's called congee. Congee is a breakfast, essentially. So you take some rice or some quinoa or some bulgur wheat or whatever it is that you're working with as a grain, add the herbs to it, and then you cook it overnight. And so that's another delivery mechanism. You can actually eat a lot of these herbs as well. For example, there's a jujube tree. Jujube fruits are really a little sweet, a little moistening, and they nourish the entire energy system. They build that chi back up. Goji berries, another really good one. Goji berries are gonna, again, be a little fruit off of the shrub that it comes off of, and you can put it into your food. You see bags of goji berries for sale in the grocery store. That's traditional Chinese medicine, that goji berry. And that goji berry helps to bring moisture and nourishment into the body. So it's really good for just helping the body to become more supple where it might be dry otherwise, especially as
Mm.
we age.
So, what about turmeric? Um, it seems like it's having a moment in the last year and change. I've been, um, I bought a bag of it, organic. I add it to tea. I'll add it to other things. I love the way it tastes. Got a little bit of zing to it. Um, Tell me about it.
Turmeric is amazing. Again, you're talking traditional Chinese medicine, also utilized a lot in Ayurvedic medicine. It is, if my memory serves me correct, in traditional Chinese medicine, it's called Huangjian. And Huang, that word, means yellow. And so turmeric, if you look at it, has that golden orange color
Oh
to
my
it.
gosh, it is so rich in color.
It's so
Even
bright.
and it can stain your hands temporarily, right? But it's so robust.
And your teeth if you drink it quite a bit.
I don't think of that.
So there's you have to watch out with that. I mean, that's just teas in general, right? So turmeric itself also we regard it as curcumin. So in a supplement form, turmeric is going to be curcumin. Same kind of thing, except what they do with that is a curcumin supplement is going to be an extract of the curcumin from the turmeric, whereas the turmeric is going to be the whole plant with all of the medicine that it comes with. And this world, the plants on this world, in this planet, in our backyards, in our neighborhoods, and different continents, because we have a global medicine network at this point, these plants are designed to support us. We have evolved alongside these plants. So that's where I like the whole plant medicine. But if you got to get your curcumin on, get your curcumin because it's going to be easy. Curcumin or turmeric is going to be anti-inflammatory.
Mm.
That yellow, if you see an herb that's yellow, really potently yellow, it's going to clear things out of the body. It's going to clear inflammation. It's going to clear heat. It's going to clear dampness. Remember how we were talking about the inner ecology last time?
Yep.
So it's going to clear those things that we're holding on to that do not serve us. You do, however, have to be careful with some herbs. Turmeric is one of them because turmeric has a high pharmaceutical interaction, especially with heart medications or blood pressure medications, because turmeric reduces blood pressure and it gets the blood moving more, less viscously than it would have been before. So it's going to really help benefit us in regard to, again, increasing circulation, reducing inflammation, getting things resolved that we're holding on to. But too much of a good thing is too much. And so if you're combining something like turmeric with a pharmaceutical, you really do need to be careful with that. And the golden rule there from my training is separate it by 2 hours.
Okay.
So take your pharmaceutical, take your other herb. If you have any concerns about interaction, and even if your pharmaceutical is an over-the-counter Advil, Tylenol, any kind of NSAID, then you're going to still separate it by 2 hours. You're going to limit as much as possible the interaction between the drug and the herb if you're worried about the herb interacting with your pharmaceutical.
And I would imagine too, if you're on a blood thinner or even taking, um, any of those like over-the-counter pain management medicine,
Yep.
aspirin, that might thin you out 2 hours. So good to know.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And these
Hmm.
are things that we don't really learn. I mean, there's other ones like St. John's wort is very, very strong and highly interactive with pharmaceuticals. And one of we have something really sad in this American culture, in the US culture, where we're so pharmaceutical heavy. And pharmaceuticals have a time and a place. They are a miracle cure for some people. They get their
Hmm.
lives back. I am
Yep.
not against pharmaceuticals. I am, however, a little opposed to the fact that we don't educate people about what pharmaceuticals do. We don't
Yep.
educate people about the way that pharmaceuticals are created or who they're actually prescribed for or studied or tested for. Pharmaceuticals are traditionally tested and prescribed for men, 150 pounds. It doesn't even get into women's medicine.
So wait a minute.
Even birth control.
Hold on.
Yeah, I know, right?
So
You're shocked.
are you saying the baseline testing for most pharmaceuticals is a male 150 pounds?
Yes. And it's also the baseline testing for herbal supplements that are processed and made into pill form. It's also the baseline testing for children's prescriptions, which is wild. But what you do there is you just do a fifth of the dose generally. And then you kind of, doctors will have to tweak what the dosage is. It's generally based off of men 150 pounds. And so herbology has a much broader and expansive way of working with bodies. It's much more gentle and malleable. And yes, we can take too much. You don't want to take too much of that turmeric, or your blood pressure might drop. I personally, if I take too much turmeric, all of a sudden I'm just like, oh, I'm lethargic. I can't take any more of this right now. It cools the body off too, because again, we're clearing things out. So too much of a good thing is too much.
So what would be, while we're on turmeric right now, what
Yep.
what would you say is an average dosage? Maybe you just made a cup of tea, you want to put some in there. What do you think?
My my educated guess offhand is probably going to be between 5 to 15 grams. And the reason why I say 5 to 15 grams is that's how traditional Chinese medicine is measured out. And so with that, you would take 5 to 15 grams, mix it with water to make a tea. If you put that in milligrams, you're talking 500 milligrams or
Hmm,
1500 milligrams.
gotcha. Wow.
Yeah.
We're almost out of time. I just this Can we do a part two on this? Because there's so many herbs out there to talk about, for all different applications, and just your knowledge is amazing. I mean, I learned so much here today, and I find it just strangely ironic or not that those medicines that we take when we go to the doctor, it pretty much originated from plants anyway. We just make it synthetic so we can mass produce it and all of that. But it's just fascinating, all of this. Even I'll be sharing with the male 150 pounds as a baseline. I'm like, that's crazy.
It's very
Um,
interesting. I don't think that it's changed. That was my training and that's my understanding for the past 15 years. And I really do not think it's changed at all. We have not made major strides in medicine to alter that entire system.
Far from the
So
expert, but that's a little bit concerning for me. But then that's another reason why not start with herbals and see where you go. Side note, in that digestion situation a year and a half ago, I described. Yes, I was taking Nexium and all of that. Wasn't doing anything. Again, 2.5 days. Herbals done.
I
and
love that.
and I never finished that bottle, so I gave it to a friend, and then they gave it to a friend because all they needed was a little bit to feel much better. Uh, how do we find you? How do we connect with you?
Connect with me on, let's see, I have Google Business. I have a Google business page, Alethea Healing Acupuncture, and all of my information is on there. It'll link you to my phone number, my website, my location, and you can see what I'm doing.
You have made me the smartest herbalist or herbalist wannabe in the room with all of your knowledge.
Perfect. Let's continue with it next time.
I
That's a
would
great
love
idea.
to. Yep. Thank you so much, and we'll do it then. Appreciate it.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.